All right, we'll start the meeting. Any need for
Recording
executive?
in progress.
Yes, there are. I was thinking that we had a need for personnel in the zoning office and possible legal discussion regarding the bridge replacement project in Act 250.
Oh, okay.
What about the recruitment authorization?
That's an agenda
Is that in the
item.
agenda? Okay,
So
all right,
generally, I
okay.
think we're doing that in the open.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any need to amend the agenda?
Yes. We can table Lisa Wright's presentations tonight on both the budget and staffing issue and the GIS issue. She's not 100%. She had a horseback riding accident and had a concussion and is recovering at home. Also, we should point out I need to add a brief discussion of a pole barn permit fee waiver for the highway crew to build a pole barn at the transfer station site and not have to pay a town fee to do it. I know. We bought the materials and put it on hold, and now it's back on track.
Move to accept agenda as amended.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, anything on the minutes of the last meeting? I didn't see anything.
Joe, here's some minutes
Good
for
to me.
you.
Next page, Joe, I think. Just guessing.
I know it's painful to sign minutes, but it's going to be even more painful to sign the orders. I know you still got your first nickel there, Joe.
Any questions on the orders? No. That was an orders issue.
Here, use that till another one arrives.
On the oxbow there, the chip seal there, they
Thank you.
apparently had to do something $1,600. I'm just wondering, it looked pretty nice to me when I was traveling over it.
Yeah.
Apparently in the neighborhood of Dave Sulia's place, there was a kind of a ding in the road, and an excavator was seen, a Tom Grace, I think, excavator was seen in the area. And so Chad was going to do some looking into that as to whether we could find the responsible party and pass along that cost. But it did need a little work to
Okay.
deal with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't want to jump to any conclusions, but those were the observations.
Anything else for anyone?
If not, I've got the 2 orders and a debit card order for signatures. Thank you. Here's payroll, Joe. Thank you.
right, town manager's report.
Yes, thank you, Alicia. The online sidewalk scoping study survey generated a lot of community feedback and was analyzed and discussed at the Tuesday, October 26th Sidewalk Committee meeting. There will be additional committee meetings on November 30th and December 21 to discuss the most promising sidewalk routes, the ones that were well received and most feasible. The consultant will then conduct a second alternatives public hearing to coincide with a select board meeting in late January or early February. The town's Veterans Day event will take place on Thursday, November 11th at 11 a.m. here in the town offices. So far, as I've mentioned before, we've locked in the Lothrop School Youth Singers and Carolyn Bruce, and the Pittsford Scouts. Town resident and TAPS performer Kaylin Carvey will be there. Pastor Joel Tate from the Furnace Brook Wesleyan Church will officiate, and I'm now still on the hunt for a keynote speaker. Any suggestions would be appreciated. I have a couple of leads I received today, and I will chase those down. Referrals of 7 delinquent taxpayers have been made to the town's tax sale attorney, who will prepare to conduct tax sales at a future date. 2 of those have recently been pulled from the list, one involving a large payment against the delinquency, and the other involving a taxpayer with medical issues who is in a convalescent home with no real assets with which to bring down his debt. So we've agreed to hold that off for a year as he's having serious medical problems. There was an Act 250 permit amendment site visit and hearing conducted in this room last October 27th. The commissioners completed the hearing and noted that they may request additional information from the parties with additional time given for rebuttals before they begin deliberations. No timetable was offered as to when they might have a decision. 2 or 3 hairline tears have been spotted in the salt shed's fabric cover.
Hey.
The contractor and roof contractor, a subcontractor, are assessing the situation. They were at the site last week apparently and did temporary patching. They will be following up with a plan for a more permanent way to address the problem. For now, again, they've patched a couple of spots to prevent water from getting in. The good news is there is a 10-year warranty in place for the roof, and we will be referring to that all along the way as we hear more from the contractor. Line striping planned for this year may have to await springtime due to shortages of line striping and a line striping contractor that's quite busy and up to their elbows. I don't know how that can be without line striping paint, but I think it's a combination of low supplies and a very busy contractor. Chad can tell us more perhaps. Back in early July, the town had a camper trailer parked, one might say abandoned, on the side of the road on the truck route, which was then towed at the town's request to the salvage yard by the salvage yard folks. Despite many promises and phone calls with the owners, they have still not collected the camper trailer from the salvage yard nor paid the $100 towing fee. Following some legal research, I believe that we can deem this camper trailer abandoned. Plans are now being formulated to haul it down to the Rutland Solid Waste District or to have Hubbard's collect it and dispose of it. I do also have an email into the salvage yard to see if they might want to quote a price to dismantle and dispose of it for us. Steve Belcher of the BLSG board, that's the Mosquito District Board, has reported that the district's board has approved the changes to its bylaws, which have been previously previewed by Steve for the benefit of the select board here. Soon, all select boards of the member towns will be asked to vote to ratify these changes, perhaps as soon as our next meeting on November 17th.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
Any select board member remarks? I have not so much a remark, but I wanted to point out in the paper today, so now, the developers for the, Grandpa's Knob wind turbine have gone to all the select boards, and there's been opposition to all the towns. But it's in the, reported in the paper today that, they believe their project is special enough to warrant an exemption, to the 5 town plans and regional plan. So that'll be interesting going forward. All right, any public comment? No, everyone's here on the agenda. All right, we'll start with new business and Lyle Jepson and Cedar.
Thank you very much for having us. I know when you see me, you think I'm coming for money.
We usually grab our wallet at that point.
Yeah.
In an effort not to disappoint you, we are here to ask for continued funding of our regional marketing initiative. And I'm here with Kim Roop, who is our Communications and Community Engagement Director. And she is the person that is single-handedly now almost taking charge of this whole thing and moving it forward for us. And I'm real excited about that. So I wanted you to meet Kim. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about where we are numbers-wise, because it's nice to know, is this thing working or is this thing not working? And just to describe what the thing is that we are trying to encourage people to move to our region. COVID helped speed that up, quite frankly, and there have been a lot of people that have moved here that we don't even know who they are or where they went, but we have seen a population increase. Our goal now will be to keep those people here, because there is a question on whether or not they'll stay. We watched all of our house values go up, 30 to 35%. Great time to sell, but you wouldn't be able to buy anything. So people have come in and they have bought things. We have some numbers specifically about our concierge program and what that is, but I wanted Kim to describe that to you, and she can answer questions way better than I can on the regional marketing initiative itself. I then have some numbers that I want to show you about what we've spent and how we've spent that. It's your money. We want you to know how that's being spent. So thank you for having us, and Kim can tell you a little bit about where we are.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having us tonight. We do have one sheet, it's front and back, that shows a little recap of kind of where we're at, some data points for the last several years. So I'll just kind of run through it really quickly with you, but first I just want to make sure that you're aware of our concierge program. It's completely complimentary to anyone who's interested in or at least considering a move into Rutland County. It's made up of about over 25 very active volunteers who are passionate about this region, love meeting new people and having conversations, and they serve both as a personal and professional networking opportunity for individuals. We single-handedly match every lead that comes through that's interested in learning more about the region with one of our volunteers with similar interests, qualities, career backgrounds, and things like that, to really, for lack of a better term, kind of do that hand-holding process and making sure that their move goes smoothly and really seals the deal. We often call it our secret sauce more recently of what makes Rutland County unique. We were the first region in the state to be doing something like this and encouraging people to move here and offering that concierge service. We're starting to see other regions pick it up, but we are certainly leading the way and leading by example. So just to kind of run through some data points, since the start of Rail Rutland, we've seen over 100 individuals move into Rutland County as a sole reason of our concierge program and the Rail Rutland efforts. And that equals out to over 50 families. So some of these people are single, some of them are young professionals who maybe haven't had children yet, some of them are retired folks. So it's a nice little mix that we're seeing. 10 plus towns are represented through our concierge program. I did take a peek this morning. We do not have anyone from the town of Pittsford, but would love to have a concierge volunteer join if you know of anyone who's interested. A lot of questions that we get are about the school systems and raising young children in this region. So if you know anyone in your town that might be interested, feel free to send them my way. Our new families have moved into over 10 towns countywide. So, full disclosure, many of them are moving into Rutland City, but we're seeing a huge uptick in people who are looking at our rural towns and outside of Rutland City. And one of our goals is to really have a concierge representative from each of the 27 towns. so that when someone says, you know, I don't want to live in Rutland City, I want a more rural lifestyle, we can connect them with someone from one of our other 27 towns. So we're very interested and motivated and encouraging people to really invest in these small towns countywide. Some of the most common industries we're seeing that these people are moving into, seeing a lot of remote workers. I'm sure that's not a surprise to any of you. Healthcare workers and nonprofit leaders. We've seen a lot of people moving for nonprofit positions, a couple executive directors, associate directors, and things like that. So those are 6 kind of high-level, quick snapshots. And then on the back, just kind of looking at our campaign in general. We are in our 4th quarter for this year of our marketing initiative. It started on October 4th. It's running until January 10th, and then we will move into 2022 outbound marketing. So you'll see we are marketing in 5 different platforms, and the percentages kind of in the middle of the page are where we're spending our money. So 51% of our media buy budget is going to Facebook and Instagram for Q4. 17% to search, 14% to LinkedIn, 12% to Killington TV to capture the skiers that are here for the season, and 6% to display marketing. And then all the way on the right-hand side, you'll see the estimated reach of individuals that we will get in each of those platforms. So certainly some high numbers there. Not only is this, you know, the intention is obviously to bring new leads through the channel, but a lot of it is brand awareness to keep people on, you know, get Rutland County on their radar. So hopefully they'll fill out a lead form, but if not, it's just routine reminders to keep Rutland County on top of mind and go from there. And then at the bottom, these are just some general statistics. We have over 3,000 followers on Facebook, over 1,900 on Instagram, and MailChimp is our newsletter marketing, our email marketing. We have over 4,600 recipients with a 19.9% open rate, which is actually really, really good compared to many other email marketing campaigns. So that's kind of just a very brief overview. I don't know if anyone has any questions before I kind of kick it back to Lyle and keep going.
I never brought you statistics.
We've been working really hard this past year to pull in the data because obviously, you know, we need to make sure that this is working and this is effective, and of course, you know, share with you all who have been huge supporters of this over the last several years, so you guys can see where your money's going and it is genuinely working and continuing to work.
And we would love a concierge volunteer from the town. You can't go wrong when you're on the phone with these people. You already have the answers. They'll ask questions about, as Kim was saying, the schools and what's it like there, and can you buy a house, and all those things that you know the answers to. And so you just can't go wrong. And it's really interesting. I was talking to a woman the other day from Colorado, and it's just fun to talk to them. And they're very excited about Vermont. Vermont's got a really good brand, and so we're capitalizing on that.
I can think of a few names I could forward to you if you'd like.
That'd be great, yeah. If you don't have questions of Kim, you might wonder, how much money have we spent? We spent quite a bit. So I'm just telling you that before you get this sheet. You're gonna look at it and you're gonna say, what do you mean, $600,000? Well, this is over 5 years. And we don't know what we don't know. I'll give you. Oh, Merit, I've got enough for everybody. It's fun to look at.
Go, Mike, and sure.
You'll see where the money is coming from and where it's going out to. And we have been working with a marketing firm. We don't know what we don't know with marketing, so we hired someone to do that. We may be transitioning in a couple different ways, doing more in-house stuff because Kim has a lot of skills that will help save us some money. So you see where it's gone out and where it's come in from. But most importantly, you're saying, well, I really want to know who else is contributing to this, because Lyle, you're asking us for $3,000. And we want to make sure that somebody else is kicking into this pool. And so this is the specific towns that are participating, how much they're participating for, in this current year, as well as the businesses that are contributing in this specific year.
Is it basically true that you've asked for $1 per head for the towns that are contributing?
That's generally been what we've been looking for. I don't know if your town has 3,000 people, but you've been donating $3,000.
Close, yep.
That's been your investment. There is one error on here. It says Casella Construction. It's actually Casella Waste that has donated that to that fund. Not all towns are contributing, and that's okay. Someday they will, we hope. We added Danby last year, and I think that that list will grow over time. Lift Marketing is that marketing firm. So when you get to the expenditures, you see Lift Marketing, that's the marketing firm that we're using. Down at the bottom, on the second page, you'll say, Lyle, you're coming to ask us for money and you've got $50,000 in the bank. Well, that $50,000 is going to carry us through the remainder of this year until we get more donations into the fund. So instead of going out and borrowing money and then paying it back, we have enough fund money in there to carry us through until town meeting day and towns begin to contribute again. So maybe way more information than you wanted to have, but it's your money that we're spending. We want you to know how we're spending it. We want you to know where it's coming from. And we want to make sure all your questions are answered. So pause there.
What sort of feedback do you get from the people who participate in the program about the marketing itself? Do they tell you stories about, oh yes, I saw this ad in a certain place, and while I was looking at New Mexico, the ad for Vermont was more enticing, that kind of thing?
We certainly see most of the people are seeing our ads on Facebook and Instagram. That's predominantly been the biggest platform that we've seen people that are actively engaging with. But, you know, if you're on Facebook and you're thinking about something these days, it feels like an hour later there's an ad for it. So, but that means it's working. But yeah, definitely Facebook and Instagram.
How long has this organization been in existence?
So we've been working on this. This is really going into the end of our 5th year. So we're moving into year 6.
And is it a 10-year plan? Was that the original idea?
We're putting it out there. It's a 10-year plan to kind of look back after that. Well, we're looking back all the time. But at that point, we need to decide probably in year 8, how is this going? Are we going to continue this the way we're doing it? Are we going to need to change it? Do we need to focus on different things? We have a marketing committee that's made up of many professionals from the region who are in marketing and in business. They've helped kind of massage this program in what we feel is the right direction. We don't always know what we don't know, and they've been very helpful.
I'm gonna leave you, you can fill this out later, but we are, while we're at each of the towns over the next couple of months, we're just leaving them with a town inventory sheet because we are looking to update our website, both our CEDRR website and the Real Rutland website, to make sure that we're highlighting each town appropriately. You guys know your town much better than we do, so if you could just fill it out, let us know what you think that we should be sharing with folks, it would be much appreciated.
For example, we know you have an 18-hole disc golf course, and that we will be highlighting that this summer when we invite young professionals from around the United States to come. We're hoping to have a weekend in August where we invite a lot to come, and we will hopefully be bringing them here to experience that.
Sure.
We want to find something in each community that will be a highlight.
Okay.
And then I'm going to leave you with this. This is more propaganda.
Jeez.
This is just everything we're up to. You know I'm going to do this. So we make it heavier every year.
Yeah?
Okay.
Wow.
It's easier now.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
$1,000 right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you.
In here, you'll find our annual report. You'll find that we are working, we have opened up a internship hub for Castleton University students in downtown Rutland so that they can work remotely on internship projects. You'll find all of our committees that we're working on. We have recently started a DEI committee, and I know that your community was one of the first to.
And that's diversity, equity, and inclusion, in case you're wondering.
Thank you very much. Your community was one of the first to adopt the resolution of equity and inclusion, and others are now following. So all of our committees are in there, things we're up to. Always open for questions. My business card's in there. Shoot us an email, or just send us home. Either way, we're good.
Is the Castleton internship program going to be at risk with the merger?
There are a lot of things at risk right now, I think. Our CEDRR, which is our affectionate name for ourselves. We've
By the way, we really hate that name. We really hate that
I
name.
don't like that name.
Back to the drawing board, right?
The Chamber and Economic Development of the Rutland Region, we couldn't come up with a sexier name than that. So,
I kinda like it, but.
so we came out strongly that Castleton University should keep Castleton University's name. When you have, the first thing you don't do when you have a business and somebody goes and buys that business, if that business is doing well, you don't change the name.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that is going to be a problem, I think, for the system, not necessarily for Castleton University. So, and I could talk about this all
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
so
okay.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Which is send you some information about our request.
Yes, and then, of course, it always goes to the voters at town meeting, and then we follow up with you and let you know how you did.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very
Thank you,
much.
this is a
Thank
lot of
you.
good information.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's see. Right there.
Close this.
Safe trip.
Okay.
We do have the solar developer remotely, if you wanted to talk with him, but that's your choice as to when, of course.
Well, I think, we should probably take care of who's in the room, so we'll get into budget. All right, so, so presentation of the 2023 budget draft.
Yeah, I can start off and introduce the folks, but I'll just start with an overview if I can, and I'll paraphrase from the memo, which I write every year at this stage, pointing out that what I've basically done with this first draft of your budgets is just plug in the numbers given by department heads. It's kind of the wish list that we start with. And with that said, I'll just read the memo. This preliminary draft of the proposed budgets for the fiscal year 2022/23 was prepared in the context of ongoing COVID pandemic and national, state, and local economic outlooks, which are substantially improved when compared with those of last year. The FY21 audit has revealed that the general fund enjoys an approximate surplus, $86,000 surplus, increasing the fund balance to $249,913 as of June 30th, 2021. The highway fund experienced a $183,000 surplus, leaving it with a fund balance, a positive fund balance of $149,547. This initial draft of the budgets reflect the request from the department heads. In order to reach balance between revenues and expenses for these funds, revenues would have to be raised and/or cuts would have to be made to be, again, in balance. Indeed, that's what the budget process is all about, the give and take and the sharpening of pencils that we do this time of year. I expect to be able to make adjustments to these budgets over time to bring them into closer balance. In addition, I will look forward to your thoughts, general or specific, in the weeks ahead as the budget process moves forward. These figures in tonight's budget draft were given with input from the town manager, Helen McKinley, Chad Ujair, Jeff Biasuzi, Mike Warfel, Sean Handy, Chief Hempel, Bob Foley, Mark Winslow, and I have some input now from Lisa Wright. Chad Ujair, Mike Warfel, Bill Hempel, Bob Foley, and Jennifer Popp will be in attendance tonight and prepared to talk about their budget proposals and work plans. We are fortunate, I should start off by saying that we have a long-term union contract still in place, which runs through June 30th, 2023. This has enabled us to plan for the future with pretty good confidence about projected spending. there are several issues that should be highlighted within this budget process. First, of course, the budget reflects a 1.5% wage increase for all employees per the union contract, which kicks in on July 1st of next year. The budget also reflects a guesstimate of a 4% overall increase to health insurance premiums. The good news is for calendar year 2022, which starts again in January, there'll be virtually no increase over the prior year, and that's due to COVID-related changes to the populations of the pools. But it's unlikely that will be repeated, and so even with an 8% increase in the following year, you split that between the two fiscal years, I thought 4% was a reasonable guess at it. Newly married water sewer employee Tyler Allen has decided to accept health insurance for himself and his wife through the town, so that's been factored in. We've also factored in master skills pay increases relatively recently made to Pat Johnson and Josh Town. Last year, we saw the town make its fourth and final buy-in payment to the Mosquito District. Again, we'll have annual dues, but we won't have any more buy-in payments, so that's $17,500 we won't need to spend in this budget year. The budget drafts also include a proposed $20,000 increase in the annual contribution to the Fire Department Capital Fund, and $10,000 to the Highway Department Capital Fund. We had increased the Fire Department Fund a few years ago, the contribution to the Capital Fund, but we all know these trucks and related equipment are getting more expensive all the time. Certainly that's true of the highway vehicles as well, and we haven't increased that amount in many years. In addition, Chad Ujair feels we should continue to gradually increase the paving budget in order to get back on track and stay on track for basically a policy that suggests resurfacing roads every 10 years to preserve the town's investment in those roads. His budget proposal also, by the way, includes enough funds to do a base course of pavement for the south end of West Creek Road. Again, feel free to raise questions or concerns with me at any stage in the budget process, but with that said, unless there's any questions for me, we can probably start the
Great.
department head presentations.
Okay.
Chief
Yeah.
Warfel's here.
Yep, let's start. Chief Warfel.
Yes. I don't have a copy of my budget, I couldn't find it.
That's fine, that's fine. They all have it. You can just talk broadly about what you're dealing with.
I'm dealing with basically three issues. One is I'm gonna have to replace the Durango here soon, but I've talked to two Dodge dealerships, and neither one of them the state prices are not out yet. And even if we get the go-ahead to replace the car, which is headed to 95,000 miles right now, the car is probably 6 to 8 months out before it will be delivered. The other thing that I'm in need of is I need some space. And not, office space would be great, but I need storage space where I can put 2015 through 2018 files and get them out up here so I have some working room. And the other thing is, the only other big thing that I need is portable radios. We did buy 2 last year, and I'd like to have 2 the next 3 years. So that's a total of 6 to replace them, bring them up to date. We've never had new radios here other than the last 2 that we just purchased. We've always got hand-me-down radios, and it'd be nice if we had some that would reach out and you could talk from different areas in the town. And one stupid little thing, I'd like to have a sign put out front that said Police Department out back.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Because when somebody comes in, I have to run to the both doors because I don't know which door they're coming in. Other than that, that's what I need, but I need space.
Okay.
I should mention that Chad Hewitt had suggested that given that the general fund had a healthy surplus and the fund balance is looking pretty good, that the select board might want to make a one-time transfer to the cruiser replacement fund, because that's kind of chronically always catching up on our vehicle purchases. And so that's something we can consider through the process.
Now, are these files confidential, or?
Yes.
So they've got to be in a secure location, or
Yes.
reasonably
Well,
secure?
I did get 4 file cabinets, fireproof file cabinets through Rutland Town, and had them all rekeyed. And if we could put a spot, even in the basement, where we could put them in and lock them up, but that basement is a mess. I've asked for a few years to have it. I mean, we need to get the department heads together and a dumpster out here. And I know there's some stuff that needs to be shredded, but there's a lot of stuff that can be just chucked.
Yeah.
Might take more than one dumpster.
Well, you're probably right there. But for now, the space to put files to clean out these drawers would help me out greatly.
Do you think you'd be able to generate a price for us to look at in terms of a portable radio replacement program?
Yes, well, the ones that we purchased this year, they were about $2,000 a piece.
And you're looking at for all 7 officers at least?
Yes.
Or maybe minus those 2 who
Two,
already
yeah, so
have them.
I would need 5, but if we get that new person, I
Yeah.
need 1 more.
Which is a good segue into the point I was going to make, which is that we're kind of, with everyone's work elsewhere, we have 5 part-time officers, and we have basically 80 hours of coverage. So Chief Warfel obviously handles 40 as a full-time officer, but trying to cobble together the other 40 hours of coverage with folks who have limited availability due to other employment elsewhere has been tough, especially on weekends. So the chief always has his door open to people who come to us looking to join on the force, and we have spoken to somebody recently who has some interest. We're still vetting that person, but it may be that there's a hire to just give you some more depth to your bench to allow for convenience to people for scheduling.
Yes.
No more hours, but just a different splitting of the hours.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Warfel.
Okay.
Painless enough, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chief Hempel, do
Yep,
you and
Chief
Tommy
Hempel.
want to talk to us about?
Sure. Me and Tom went over our budget, went through it, took quite a bit of time. One area we think we should increase is the labor, because of the minimum wage is probably gonna go up between now and then. We have gone down on some items that we could. We have increased, as John talked about, our equipment. We'd like to increase our equipment replacement fund $20,000 from 80 to 100,000 because of the price of vehicles going up. I think Tom was been 7, 8 years since we've done anything with that, maybe longer.
The last time we did it, we didn't put what we were planning, we cut it.
Right, yeah. So that's, we requested that, we'd like you to consider that. Also, we ran into a situation, as you know, with our hoses. We had them tested by someone else other than us for the first time. And we had some bad hose that was, most of it was probably 30 years old. So our plan is, we'd like to put in our budget $3,000 a year to have our hoses and ladders tested. And we feel like by doing that, our replacement of hose would be less than having to do a one-shot deal like we did. But they recommend you test it every year, your hose. And they tested our ladders also. They did a real good job. They actually pressure tested them. They put a weight on them, and they bend the ladders, so it was a good test. So I was pretty impressed. I was up there the whole time they were doing it. They tested 10,000 feet of hose plus our ladders for about $2,900. So I think it's money well spent. And we did up our hose replacement, just because we're probably gonna have to replace some more of the, especially the 4-inch feed hose. But other than that, we tried to hold the line on a lot of stuff, and some stuff we did go down on where we felt we could. You got anything, Tom?
No, you said it all. I mean, we spent a lot of time looking at this, trying to keep our budget as low as we can possibly keep it.
No, the taxes hurt, so we try to, but anyway, so. Anybody got any questions would be? Okay, appreciate you guys' support.
Thank you all for coming out and giving us a hard look. We appreciate it. Okay, Bob Foley, to finish out the police fire and response, why don't you tell us a little bit about your year? I can point out that this is really the second year, we're now in the second budget year.
Right.
But we already have 1 full year of experience during the transition you made from a private entity to a town entity. So now we think we've pretty much figured out what your budget needs are and have basically just projected
Yeah.
ahead based on what we've already experienced, right?
Right, because it was pretty close to what we were budgeted,
Right.
it came out. Let's see, well, we answered 181 calls this year. We did some fundraising on our own, we got, I don't know, probably around $2,500. I have in the works right now, the main thing is the building, and I have 3 contractors that are supposed to get me estimates to rehab all the wood that needs to be done on the outside of the building, prepare and vinyl side it, along with putting all new windows in, because they all are in a bad state. I did have one thing, it was one of the overhead doors, it was rusted on the bottom and the seal came off, so I got an estimate from overhead door for $1,000 to replace the panel and also go through and service the overhead doors, check the rollers, lube them, whatever needs to be done. And I got back to them, told them to go ahead, but they said it'd be a couple weeks out before they could schedule it in. Other than that, as always, we're still looking for people.
I was gonna say, how's your human power going? How many
It's up
do
and
you-
down.
Yeah.
There were probably some unanswered calls, but everybody works, and I can't come from Rutland because the ambulance would be here before I would anyway. But we've been plugging along. We got,
I gotta say, that's been a very smooth transition, hardly missed a step in terms of becoming a town department, and we're happy to kind of give you the comfort of being part of a larger organization, and maybe there's some savings in terms of insurances and that kind of thing.
right, oh, yeah, definitely.
So what about your vehicle replacement? Projection?
Yeah, eventually we will. I mean, the Suburban is starting to get pretty rusty. Actually, I was gonna see somebody I know about maybe doing some work on it. But
We do add $5,000 a year to their fund, which I think is pretty healthy.
yeah,
$25,000-$30,000 or more.
yeah, it's up towards the $30,000 mark now.
And then also $5,000 every year to their building improvement fund. So hopefully there'll be the money around once you get those quotes that we can move on to get the building upgraded.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's about it.
I'd say thanks to you and your dedicated team.
Very important to have them.
Sure, absolutely.
You can't count on regional, especially this time of year, right through spring.
It's been crazy down there.
Yeah,
And
so-
they've gone from maybe 30 calls a day to, they actually almost hit the record of 50 in one day.
Wow, really?
At midnight, we had 47 calls, or 49 calls, I'm sorry.
Wow.
It was just one right after another. We had, actually, most all of us that night had to stay late just to write our reports once we were done running calls.
Well, thanks very much,
Yeah,
guys.
thank
Appreciate you
you.
coming in. We can probably segue over to Jennifer Popp, who's here to talk about the rec department. Hi.
So, it's my first time, so.
Oh, we're a pretty scary group.
It's not quite as mean as they look.
So, I'll just hand these out. This just talks about what has been going on through the rec department in the last year. Some of the projects that we're working on right now. And then next year. My main things, the first thing that really needs to be replaced, in my opinion, is the dock. So I've asked for $15,000 plus labor and installation charges. I am going to be applying for a recreation grant for the state of Vermont, and that's a 1-to-1 match grant. I did get an estimate from Dock Doctors, so it would be an aluminum galvanized steel legs, and then wear decking is what they use on the top, which is like the truck decking. So the dock that we have now has become rotted and unsafe.
Been there for a while.
So
No, if that's the same one I used to jump off or not.
Probably. Or if it is, that's a good question.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get it done this year, and it just didn't happen. So
We're still going to be doing that parking expansion
Yeah.
next spring, it
in
looks like.
spring, yeah, and that'll be finished for the spring, which really we won't need it until baseball season starts up anyway. And then I asked for roughly $15,000 to resurface the tennis courts and the basketball court. The cracks were sealed. A group of pickleball players did seal the cracks this fall on the tennis courts, but they both really need to be resurfaced. The cracks all over them. Somebody had fallen, one of the pickleball players had fallen and hurt her arm, so that needs to be done. And then the last thing that I was asking for is $3,000, which is for the MyRec online registration program, so that families are able to set up an account online, register for any event, sports. It also would support the summer camp. The rec would have their own homepage.
Probably saving an awful lot of time, and a lot of time to Helen and Liz
Yes.
processing
Yeah.
payments. Nelson
Yeah.
had that thought in his
Yeah.
brief time here as well.
Yeah, and it's money well spent. I think that we would have see a lot more registrations come through if we had an online service. And then if somebody were to cancel, they have credit on their account, so they can put that towards another sport or event. So it's very handy. Brandon uses it, and I had talked to Bill about it, and he said that he definitely saw an increase in people coming through after he had that in place. And I think one more thing I'd asked was the lifeguard pay for the supervisor. I had increased that on there to just by $1,500. I thought right now the supervisor was paid $13 an hour, and she will be doing the swim lessons next year. And she just does a fantastic job. She did all the scheduling of the lifeguards. They would go to her when they needed their schedules changed, or so.
In all honesty, we've really been underpaying for the rec director, for the summer camp director.
Careful, John, careful.
We're gonna have to delete.
We heard that, Jeff.
the summer day camp and the leadership on the lifeguards. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, we increased the pay for the summer camp director to $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that definitely, we had a great camp director.
definitely earned it.
And it helps with recruitment, of course.
Yes, yeah, I think it'll be a lot easier to hire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get too many people for $13 an hour.
No, especially when they're in charge of, for the camp director, they're in charge of 30 kids and 2 staff.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
So,
And the point was made that, yeah, the minimum wage in Vermont is increasing, so we need to be tracking that as well.
yeah.
And by the way, these budget sheets have last year's actual experience, and you have to take the actual experience with something of a grain of salt, because COVID really depressed rec numbers, both in revenues and expenses.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yep.
let's keep that in mind.
Mhm, okay. For sure. All right, thank you.
Thanks very much. Keep up the great work. You've
Yeah.
been very busy, and there's been so much programming that people, I'm sure, are excited to see it all.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support.
Hey, Chad, Highway Department?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
Thank
good
you.
night.
Yes,
Have a good
thank
one.
you.
Take care.
You too. See
Good
you, Bill.
holidays if we don't see you.
Yep,
Cheers.
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
Good night. Mass Exodus.
Yes.
Chad, you just need
All
to
right,
unmute.
yeah.
Chad, you need to unmute.
Okay.
There we go.
We were gonna get out, well, he wasn't gonna be able to speak, so he wouldn't need any money this year.
Oh, no, need money. I'll try to be quick this year since I was told I was long-winded last year. You notice probably the biggest thing I have is paving budget's close to 400,000, which is for approximately 4 miles of road. That's including, like I said, like John mentioned, the base of West Creek, which would be kind of an extra for this year, and then I have 3 miles of Whipple Hollow Road, but that's kind of flexible, only because there's 2 culverts on Whipple Hollow that need to be replaced, some bigger ones that possibly are going to try to get a grant for that work. I mean, if that doesn't come through, then Furnace Road is another road that needs paving. And not in front of your house, but the upper part.
Oh, dang.
But there's certainly plenty of places where I can spend the money on paving. But like I said, Whipple Hollow, definitely, depending on what that culvert work, how that comes out. So that's, like I said, that's a big chunk of money there I'm asking for. And I guess the other thing I just want to mention, as far as the equipment, this year, I know I had 2 things on for this year. One, that blower, I talked myself out of that, so that can be discarded. The tractor with the arm mower is, well, it replaced both mowers that we have. So instead of having the arm mower plus the ditch mower, we go with this newer style, a little more modern. Rutland Town running one now, and they're able to do everything with it. So quicker than what we have now, as far as like arm mower control wise. So I think we'd be, okay to do that. Switch to that, a little more updated, modern, and get more use out of it.
So you're talking mower and tractor?
Mower and tractor. Well, pretty much like what our Ford is now, like a 90 horse cab tractor with the arm mower. But the way the controls are, it's a little quicker, and we'd be able to do the side of the roads as well as reaching out and getting the brush like we're doing now, instead of running two pieces, two separate mowers. Because, well, right now our ditch mower should have been replaced 4 years ago, as far as like our equipment replacement year-wise. It's held together well, taking care of it, but it's time to go before something happens, and that our mower is definitely made its, we've got all the life out of it we can for that as well.
Do you think there's any trade or sale value for either of those old pieces?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I spoke with a salesman from Fairfield, and he wants to come down and take a picture of the Ford and our mower. He has a customer that buys older ones, still runs them. Yeah, and then even the ditch mower, I'm sure somebody that's, just needs some fields to go around with it and stuff would work, so. That's about it, unless there's any questions.
We've kept the same bridge replacement payment of $50,000. I think salt and sand are about the same because we had a little bit extra that we didn't use last year, right?
Yep, I mean, actually the sand, I think I reduced it by about 5,000.
Okay.
Figuring
Yep.
with being undercover this year, we should be in good shape, so. One other, actually, I'll mention now, the work plan, I mentioned the crack sealing.
Yep.
Instead of being contracted out, it's looking into, well, actually, originally I was looking into buying our own unit so we could do our own. But speaking with a company, they rent them also. So there's a possibility that we could rent one for 4 days for half the price of what we pay for 2 days, 2.5 days of. So that's, really keep that same budget, we could do, spring and fall crack sealing and really do a good job and save on our paving, so. Something I'm looking into anyways, so. I'm not always spending money. I save at my end.
It's a chilly room tonight, Chad.
Oh my God.
Hey, my road's paved. I'm not worried for 10 years, so.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks for coming out.
Have a good night.
You
You
too.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think since all the budget stuff is done, let's go, continue discussion of the Adams Road Solar Project.
Yeah, I believe we have George Yan on the feed, and he may have some colleagues with him tonight who he wants to introduce to us. Okay.
Yes, good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. This is George Yan, representing DG Vermont Solar LLC by Nexera again. And I will, I will let our team to introduce themselves. We can start with Nancy.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Malmquist. I'm with Downs Racklin Martin in Vermont, and I am local counsel to DG Adams Road. And also with us, I'll turn to William Cox, who is in-house counsel for DG Adams Road. Adam?
Yep, this is Adam Crary. I'm a natural resources consultant with BHP, based out of our South Burlington, Vermont office, doing natural resources and environmental permitting assessments for the project. Good evening, this is Michael Willard. I'm also with VHB, and my role in the landscape architect and sort of doing the aesthetics analysis for the project for the 248 process.
Is that it?
Thank you for the introduction.
Okay.
We didn't receive any specific requests of agenda tonight, so actually we're waiting if the town has any comments, any follow-ups, or feedback regarding our project, questions that we address today legally or technically. We have the entire team here to answer all your questions and doubts.
Okay. John had some.
Just tick off a couple. First of all, should we be worried at all those expensive lawyers that we're looking at?
Yes.
I guess they're, okay, just moving forward, can you clarify the situation of the lease and/or potential ownership of this parcel? We have heard that that remained ambiguous or not quite clear from when I talked to the Planning Commission chair the other day. That you had a meeting with them last week, and they were still quite uncertain about the planned ownership of the land and whether there's going to be a lease and for how much acreage.
Yes. We can address that, and we're sorry about the confusion at the Planning Commission. DG Adams Road does have a signed option to lease a portion of the property under the terms of a solar lease and easement agreement with the current owner, and those option rights are summarized in a memorandum of lease that have been recorded with the Pittsford land records, and that option is for a period of 3 years, and the option rights run with the land, meaning that DG Adams rights will remain in effect even if the property owner sells the property to someone else, so that any potential sale of the property does not change these contract rights. Now, when you asked about the size of and under the option to lease, the company then has the right to exercise that option and enter into a 25-year lease of a limited portion of that property that runs for initially 25 years with an additional opportunity to extend for up to an additional 10 years. But the way that, oh, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, go ahead.
The way the option, we were not as clear as we should have been the other night, but the final lease area will, when you, under the lease agreement, during the option period, there's a period where they're exploring the environmental and survey and other issues to determine some of the precise locations where, without disturbing the land and with something that fits in best with the property, will be the exact site of the project. But even under that lease agreement, most of that property is excluded already from the lease. And then under the option and under the lease agreement, when they determine the final size of the property project, they will finalize the agreement with an exhibit which shows the final footprint within the non-excluded area, which at this point is expected to be no more than 16 or 17 acres in the area that's been cited under the agreement for allowing for the project to be cited. So while they're exploring the area within this limited piece that was already limited under the agreement by the landowner, where they can look for a solar project, they will ultimately determine that size, which will be then delineated on the property by the project fence, and it is expected to be no more than 16 or 17 acres.
So I'm confused because I was at the planning commission meeting and this was an extensive back and forth conversation and you all said that it was a lease option for the entire 117 acres and that was repeated numerous times during the planning commission meeting.
The option is, it covers the entire property as they're allowed to go on the property to look at and explore the site. But the actual lease, when completed, under its terms, will be for just the size of the 2.2 megawatt project, which is to build and site the 2.2 megawatt project, which will be only 16 or 17 acres.
Right, but if you guys are also considering buying the property, what's going to happen to the rest of the acreage?
If you look at the memorandum of lease that's in the town real estate records, it does make clear that the company does not have any right or any right of first refusal to purchase the property. The owner of that property can continue to own it or sell the property to anyone that the person chooses. And this company, DG Adams, if they were offered the ability to purchase the property, would consider it like any other purchaser, but they don't have any right to purchase this property from the owner.
Okay, that understood. I guess the part that's getting me, if you were to purchase the property, okay, I realize that's an if, would that change the footprint of this solar facility? In other words, or are you limited to that 16 acres by the topography, the wetlands, whatever is there?
And in addition, the standard offer contract with the representative of the state of Vermont, Beppy, under the standard offer program, the project which sells its renewable energy back to Vermont utilities under the state program is limited under the program to 2.2 megawatts, which is the size of this project that will be sited on approximately 16 to 17 acres. And they would lose their ability to sell that or to sell the energy back under the standard offer program if and the project would not have much value at that point if they were to seek to increase that size. And in addition, it's unclear whether you could interconnect additional projects at that location. But essentially, the state wants to make sure that someone is not gaming the system by putting in a 2.2 megawatt project, selling the energy back to the state, and then putting something close by. So they have their own rule, which prevents a solar developer from citing something it's something they call the single plant test. But the company does not have plans to expand this project or to build another one there. And if in sometime in the future, anyone, this company, any other project owner looks to expand a generation project like this, or make any material change, like move portions in any sort of material way, they still would have to go back to the Vermont PUC for approval, and the town would then be notified and have a right to participate. It's not something the company could do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were done.
I think one of the big concerns of the town is our trails go, I believe they go through that property. So, and I think what threw up a lot of red flags was our planning commission tentatively approved this. The next day, the owners put the land up for sale. I think that has caused some confusion. I'm trying to think of the right word. Some confusion with all of us. It's, and this is me speaking personally. It seems, okay, we've got this solar going in here, you know, this is a way for us to sell this land and get a whole lot more money for it. That's because now, you know, the town has said, okay, you know, you can do this, whatever, so this is going through. We've just increased the value of this land, so now we can sell it. I think a concern in town is, and I understand that at any point in time, anyone doing this can sell it, but the fact that the way this happened, I think there's concern is that we will lose our trail system through that property if it is sold to someone else who doesn't want the trails there. So, and I don't know if you have any clout in this at all, but if there is a way to assure the town that those trails will be allowed to be there, I think that would pacify a lot of people in town.
The project, this project was designed to ensure that it did not interfere with the operation.
I understand that.
And continued use of the trail. And,
It destroys the aesthetics of the trail, though. Do you know? I don't know if you know that part of that trail.
I mean, I'm not, that part we can argue all day. I'm just, I think the concern is, it was the timing of all this came through that has caused a lot of, you know, confusion, again, for lack of a better word. And I think a lot of people are concerned that if, you know, I guess, and you don't know if you're buying it or not, and I would certainly assume that if you people
they're
well, you have the land is for sale. There is a possibility.
It was mentioned at the last meeting.
It was mentioned, there is a possibility that you could buy it. I'm not saying that you are, I'm just saying you have that ability to purchase the property. But it doesn't mean somebody else isn't gonna buy it in the meantime and close these trails down. I think the difference was you had somebody that owned the land and yeah, they need some extra money, so they're gonna put this solar on here to give them some extra income, whatever. They're still gonna own the property. Yeah, everybody was good with that. But now the property got put on the market. Nobody knows who's gonna own it. And there's a lot of concern as to what's gonna happen to our trail system. Our trail system in this town is very important to this town. So that is one of the big issues here. And I don't know if there's any way you can assure us that those trails can stay there somehow.
I mean, the only thing I can say, and I'll let others who may know more about this than I do speak as well, that the company, you know, had no knowledge or had no information about or involvement in the owner deciding to sell to put the property on the market when this company is related to a company that builds good quality solar generation projects around the state of Vermont and around the country.
No, I'm very familiar with your company, so yes.
And makes it a point to work collaboratively with the towns and neighbors that they are that are near their projects, so that the town is satisfied. And when this project was designed, it was designed in a way to when they were understood that the trails are important to the vicinity, to ensure that it did not interfere with the town, with the trails, and any effect on the trails were mitigated. Mm-hmm. To the extent the trail runs on the portion that the company will lease, the company would obviously would not interfere in any way with the trail. But I don't know how someone could speak for, you know, obviously try to discuss with any landowner whether it's the current one or a future one, since the contract for the lease runs with the property, to continue, you know, good relationships with the town and the support for the trail system, but I couldn't speak for the, they're not the owner of the property to the extent the trail runs in other portions of the property. But clearly would have an interest in wanting to be supportive of the town and your recreation, the recreation rights there and availability that's important to you. Clearly would want to be supportive and work with you where we could.
No, and I understand
We
that.
don't
I
own the
guess
property.
I understand that, but I guess maybe what it is I'm asking, to put it in simpler terms, is there any, you've got this lease on this chunk of property, whatever, you've got some clout with whatever happens on this property. Is there a way you can assure us for the next 25 years, if this lease goes through, et cetera, that our trails will remain there?
Can you put it in the lease somehow?
Put it in the lease, yeah, exactly. Put it in the lease somehow that those trails have to stay there. I mean, I'm asking. You can tell me yes or no, but that's my question. Is there a way to assure that they will stay there? I mean, you certainly are in a position.
To write it right into the lease, I would think.
Yes.
Well, the lease is already in place and signed. The exhibit that will have the part that we lease, is guided by the terms of the lease, that it's where we will have the project. But clearly, we're open to continuing to discuss with the town opportunities or ability to provide support to you all to for greater assurances regarding your interest in recreation and the trails.
But your lease is for the whole 241 acres or whatever it is, correct?
The option gives them a right to go on the property as they're looking at the environmental and the permitting area. But the ultimate lease is just, it provides for where the infrastructure is going to be. It's written so that ultimately the specific meets and bounds related to the project, the final project fence, would be the total extent of the lease. It was never expected to be more than like 16 or 17 acres.
Okay.
So the option gives them the right to go on the property to do, for example, the environmental and the prime ag soil testing and looking at those various areas, but the actual lease itself is limited by the terms to where the infrastructure is going to be developed.
Okay.
And it's on a limited portion.
All right, well, where are we at? The planning commission rescinded their letter of acceptance.
I can give you an update. I mean, you were there.
Yeah,
But
and
I talked to Mark Winslow. There's a memo in tonight's packet basically saying that they had in the past been supportive of every solar project that has come before them, basically on the rationale that a private landowner should be free to do with their land what they wish. That's the general mindset, according to Mark. And they said that after last night's meeting, he presented the group, the planning commission, with three options. Do they want to support the project with a letter of some kind? Do they want to oppose it with a letter of some kind, or take no action? And the unanimous vote was to take no action.
Well, our interest clearly to this select board is to make sure the town is satisfied with the project and with the plan. And to answer your questions, and clearly, over time, we would appreciate the support of the town, but in the meantime, we would like to make sure your questions are answered, and where we can provide you with assistance and support on areas that you're interested in, we're clearly interested in continuing to communicate with you. Because it's not something, we necessarily would know how to achieve with the landowner who is basically accepting payments and has a contractual obligation that runs with the land, and is not, for whatever reason, no longer interested in owning the land, where we can be helpful and supportive to you, we clearly would like to keep those lines of communications open, because clearly, you know, if that trail is by the project and we're building it to try and be helpful to the town, you know, we would like to continue to communicate on how the company might be supportive, and when you're looking at your options there.
Okay, so I'm gonna change it a little bit. There was some concern the last time you were here, because your panels rotate. Have you done any analysis, because there are houses up on the hill, kind of above that? Have you done any analysis as far as first thing in the morning with those panels tipped the way they're gonna be tipped, if there will be any glare heading that way from the panels?
Yes, so let me answer that. Michael, you feel free to jump in if you want. Well, basically most of the solar panels nowadays have this anti-glare or anti-reflective glass on it, and usually they absorb most of the, I can say up to 95% of the sunlight in the solar cells. So recently in the last years you have seen solar panels installed in the rooftop of airports or solar projects near to airports, even though, because the solar panels are not reflecting the sunlight anymore. You know, they're absorbing as much as possible, and they don't provide this glare that will probably in an environment as an airport will be very dangerous. No? But in our case, we're using these panels, the multicrystalline technology, with our trackers. Even though the one-axis tracker is moving from east to west, from the morning to the afternoon, it will not reflect any sunlight to any neighbors surrounding the area.
Okay.
That's according to our study, and the tracker system we mentioned last time in the meeting. You know, it's only 7 feet tall. It is not something that will be very visible from all the sides, from the 4 sides of the project, because of the distance that we mentioned last time. We don't think that will affect the visibility at all. Feel free to comment, Michael, if needed.
Yeah, as George mentioned, so we ran a visibility analysis that sort of takes the topography into consideration, and so it runs through a computer model, and it projects where potential visibility of the project occurs. And so there are 3 specific residences that are up on Goat Farm Road that sort of have that elevated view. And so we went up there and documented potential visibility from those parcels. Again, this is from the public right of way. We don't have right to go on their private property. And so we have documented views from Goat Farm Road in those locations, and due to sort of intervening vegetation along those hillsides that are sort of like that those houses look over, it looks like most of the potential for visibility is going to have intervening vegetation in the way.
Part of the year.
Okay.
Donna, you had a question?
Sure. Okay, so I understand you have other projects in the state, and this question is about your taxes that you pay, your assessment, and you are mandated to pay the municipal portion of your assessed value. Do you choose to pay the education tax, because that is something that's not mandated, that you have a choice to do if you so choose to do so? So my question is, with your other projects, are you paying a portion of that education tax?
Sorry, we don't have our tax experts today in the call. That's a question that we can discuss internally in the next days, and we can get back to you. Yes.
That would be great, because basically what happens is the rest of us taxpayers subsidize that. That's a big concern that I have as a taxpayer, because I just learned about how that's the state has that formula, and like a $300 million solar project, they're probably paying 200, it's assessed at 200 million, and then a tax bill for municipal comes out to like $12,000. I mean, probably 85% of our taxes are the education tax, so that's a big part of it. So as we get more and more solar, it's like, okay, what benefit are we getting out of this? So, yeah, so that's my question. So with your other projects, are you paying some of that education tax? Because that's your option, apparently, with the way the state formula works for assessment. And, you know, would you be willing to be paying some of that education tax for this particular Adams project?
We'll go back to the company and find out the details of the state and local tax that are paid, and be back in touch with the select board.
Okay, right.
I've got a couple questions. Back to the ownership of the land. What are the names of the landowners?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Yes, what are the names of the landowners?
What the lease is with?
Yes, or I want to know who owns the land on which the solar project would be located.
I can answer that. It's Erica M. Cyr, C-Y-R, Cyr.
Is that the sole owner?
Yes.
And do you know whether she continues to be supportive of the project?
I mean, as long as I know, we have executed this lease agreement 1 year ago on March 26, 2020. And since then, until last 2 weeks, we were okay. As long as I know, the solar lease was going to move forward, and then.
Well, there is no question that the company entered into a contract that runs with the land and has been paying the option fees to the landowner, and regardless of whether the landowner sells the land or continues to own it, the agreement runs with the land. And the owner doesn't have the right now to terminate the agreement or the contract that was made and for which she's being paid.
That's not really my question. My question is really, does she continue to support the project as far as you know?
We don't, the company does not know that.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay. And if you do have other questions, please reach out. The company does want to make sure that your questions are answered.
Can you give us a brief timetable of what's in store next for the process and for the development? What times are coming up? What deadlines are coming up for submissions, etc.?
The next deadline under the standard offer contract is for the company to file its petition with the Public Utility Commission sometime in the next month.
Is that in the wildlife corridor? Anybody know?
Probably.
What about fencing? Has been discussed?
Well, they're putting up
Has there been any evaluation of the impact on migratory species of wildlife and how the fencing that you propose might impact on that?
Do you want me to take that?
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, there's been can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. The project is required to evaluate impact to wildlife habitat, specifically necessary wildlife habitat that's typically covered under Act 250 or Section 248 criteria. So that assessment's been done. For this project, it's specifically covered deer wintering area and potential grassland bird habitat, because that's the most potential to occur at the project site. So that information will be included in the project's petition. The project does have a perimeter fence that we anticipate will be installed so it excludes large wildlife from getting trapped inside the array, but also allows passage of small wildlife to go underneath the fence. So that information will be included in the project's petition and the site plans.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, update on retention for new town manager.
Yes, I gather that Rick McGuire has been trying to be in touch with all selectmen regarding the plan to move forward with the recruitment process. And I think there are some decisions that need to be made and communicated to Rick, along with his discussions with each of the select board members individually. Beyond that, I really don't know too much because
Okay.
it's mostly a select
Yeah.
board
I
function.
spoke to him for about an hour the other day, last week.
Yeah, I've talked with him.
You have talked with him?
Yeah.
Joe Gagne, I think, has, and I think Hank was able to
I think
send him some
everybody has.
information.
Yeah, I after the initial first hour conversation with, I have not had a second one, which I guess he wanted to have. So
Yes.
I had back and forth. We keep missing each other.
Okay.
So,
And I know Hank was able to send some written comments
okay.
on the traits he's looking for as well. So I think once Alicia makes the call, I think Rick should have what he needs to move forward.
Well, no, he
There were
doesn't.
some
He-
decisions Dave mentioned that need to be
He
made.
needs that recruitment plan authorization. He needs that before he can do anything.
Okay, and that's a select board chair who's gonna handle that, is that right?
It's the first I've heard of it. I don't know what, I'm not sure.
He was trying to get a hold of you on that, I believe.
Huh.
Yeah, he sent it to you, what, October 6th?
Yeah.
Sent it to me?
Yes,
Well, there were
well,
some
that's what he said.
documents- There were some documents you got, remember, before a meeting recently that we copied and distributed, but we really didn't have a chance that night to look at it.
All right, then yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, no, it was what John handed out here
Okay.
last meeting or last meeting, I think.
Hmm.
It was right at the end of the meeting and we tabled it. But he needs, because in order for him to do anything, we have to authorize his plan. So.
It doesn't look
There's
like-
not a lot, the only thing in it is, from what I saw, it's all pretty boilerplate except where we want to advertise.
Right.
We need to look through that list, because there's a thing in there, in speaking with John, that's mostly up in Canada for $600, which I don't think we want to do, but the rest of them weren't that expensive, and
But to clarify, the
Well-
ICMA is a town manager's group above and beyond what Vermont has for town managers, which is international. By that I mean North America, mostly America, but a lot of Canadian input. That's what they mean by international. It's not mostly Canada, but it's
oh, well,
it's
I
America
thought you
and
said
some
mostly.
Canada.
There was a
Okay.
lot of Canada, but anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
And it may be beyond what you want in terms of a regional approach. Otherwise, they list all the other sites throughout New England except for Rhode Island, I think. So they've got Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts covered
Okay.
by the advertising. And plus, of course, our usual local things
Mhm.
to include 7 Days and the Herald and the Brandon Reporter. And
Yep.
that should do a pretty good job getting the word out, as well as their website, which
Mhm.
is very well distributed.
Yeah,
among
so
people looking for work.
what he's got, 7 days, weekly rates, online 30 days, that's from $250 to $900. Rutland Herald, consecutive publication days, $260. I don't know how many days that gets us, or whether that's per day. Brandon Pittsford Reporter, a week is $90. MA, so the Mass Municipal, is $270 for 30 days online. New Hampshire League of Municipalities, online 30 days, $150. And then you've got Maine, municipal is free, Connecticut is free, and VLCT newsletter website is free. So personally, you
Do all the
know,
free ones?
well, I think certainly the free ones, that makes sense. I would think New Hampshire, Mass, those two. You're getting 30 days for one's 270, one's 150. Brandon Pittsford Reporter, I mean, that's our hometown paper. And, you know, I think for me, the only question is whether 7 days is worth it or not.
Yeah, why not?
So, you know, it's weekly rates, online 30 days, but again, it's between $250 and $900. I don't know what, estimated his estimated cost is $460.
So for what, couple months or?
I'm guessing wide northern distribution with weekly print and online for 30 days. Estimate based on 2 runs with abbreviated adjustment. So looks like, yeah. So I don't know if it's 30 days or 60 days, 2 runs, but I mean, I guess I would go, you know, with, well, actually he's got this the $600 national one, he's got it down at $450. I mean, the total, if we did everything he's got here, it's just shy of $1,600 advertising.
Okay.
That's not bad.
So.
That's really not.
No. No, we're talking.
Well, yeah, so.
I'd say go with it.
Is that a motion?
I'll make it a motion if you want, so that we can get this off the ground.
Okay.
I'll make that a motion, we start there and spend up $1,600.
Yeah. Do we need to
Okay.
make a motion on that?
I don't know, but I'll second it.
There.
There. So now you're stuck with it, whether you want it or
No,
not.
I know, John, is that something that we do need, a motion on?
I'd say it's probably safe to do that.
All right.
It also shows him that you're committed to the
Okay,
process.
all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. So, and then I mean, I don't see anything else in there that's,
There's a draft proposed advertisement, in which he apparently asks a few questions just to fill in gaps. Not too many important things. We can tell him that we have 11 full-time equivalent employees. We can tell him we've already given him the job description. We can tell him we've already given him the town profile. There's also this discussion of whether the master's degree is required, and I think you all said that you didn't think that was necessary. I agree with you. They also asked about salary range. He had suggested 75 to 90. I do think that's in the ballpark, but if anybody wanted to, we have this year's up-to-date payment schedule for town managers all across Vermont and our local regional ones, and I think they all confirm that maybe something like that, or even 80 to 95, something like that would be the appropriate number. So they're very close to what these numbers bear out. So, yeah, you have to extrapolate. Some bigger towns pay more, some smaller towns
How
pay
much bigger is
less.
Proctor?
Proctor's we're twice the size of Proctor.
yeah,
I was gonna say,
Proctor's
cause
not very big.
their new town manager's getting 68.
Yeah, there are 1,500 people there. Yeah. For example, Brandon, 90,000, he grosses 103. That's 3,700 people. Randolph has 4,500 people. They pay 85. West Rutland has 2,100 people. They pay 83. So yes, that's definitely neighborhood.
Yep.
I think those are really the questions he wants. And then hopefully, once you speak with him, he can recalibrate his timetable and see if he can get it all done as our original deadline was looking for, town meeting kind of handoff of a new person.
Yep, okay.
I think there's still time to do it.
The other thing I picked up on here, what do we want, or who do we want the committee who reviews the final applicants to be made up of?
We
Do
talked
we want
about that last time.
We wanted the
We already
select
talked
board,
about that,
correct?
yeah.
Select board, okay, so that needs to be
Yeah.
straightened out in there too, John. Okay. So there.
I'll do what I can to pass it on to Rick and copy you on it, Alicia, and then you
Yeah.
can give him the call and we'll be all set.
Okay, sounds good.
Good. Progress, ever forward.
Yes.
Well, I thought I'd answered all his questions the first hour plus conversation I had with him, so.
That was probably administrative. Now he wants to pick your brains about what you want in your town manager.
Yeah.
As I
already
remember,
told
the last, at least one of the times we went through this, that they narrowed it down to about 6, and then we made contact and narrowed it down to about 3.
We pared it down to, if we had 6, we pared it down to 3 that we wanted to interview. I think that's the way we kind of did it. if I remember
But
right.
we're gonna be hard pressed, according to my conversation with him, we're gonna be hard pressed
Could be.
to find anywhere near that amount, well, that amount of people. There's just nobody's,
Right.
Nobody wants to work anymore.
they don't have to, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Not too bad a job, really. Seems
It's the
fun.
same with superintendents. Same with
That's
superintendents.
You know,
It's a great job.
It's a great job.
substitutes, aides, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
There's nobody.
Can't get anybody.
Can't get anybody.
Line
Bus
stripers.
drivers, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in the wrong occupation.
The trees just keep on growing.
All right, the row permit for Beans Mobile Homes.
Yes,
Too late for me.
thank you for that. I have lost track of it. Here it is. Beans Mobile Home would like to have a driveway on the north side of Windy Hill Road cul-de-sac. And
What's the street?
there is a map.
Wait,
Where's Beans, isn't Beans,
He's
Right next
putting
to
a house
Winslow's.
in. He's putting a house in on Windy Hill.
oh, he's putting a house
okay.
in. Oh, okay.
He owned the land, I remember when I was a lister.
oh, I'm thinking it's like
Yeah.
right
House in
where,
It's that last
where the-
lot.
The
It's the
mobile homes
last
are,
lot
or
on
the-
the cul-de-sac.
Down by,
Howard Stickney Trucking is gonna
Alright, that's by
construct the
JR's.
access road.
Where is it?
Windy Hill's across from Lake JR's, like in that
yeah,
area.
down.
It's a little bit of an uphill.
Oh, up in, right out here.
Chad,
By the Maple Museum.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
Oh, yes, okay, so up in the,
That's Windy Hill.
Yep.
Up where Ronnie Marine is.
I'd make
It's just a little cul-de-sac.
make the motion, we.
okay, never been up in there, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Chad
So it's
has,
the last lot.
Chad has looked it over and approved it, subject to the condition that, again, no water runs into this town roadway.
All right.
I'll make a motion.
Well, Joe made the
Joe made the
motion, I'll second it.
That's what-
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. As long as Chad's good with it.
All right, and then,
Work, Chad's to blame.
That's right.
and then Snowmad's request for, snowmobile access to town roads, and that list seems exactly the same as it is every year.
They've told us, and
I'll
of
make a
course,
motion to
we're,
approve it.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's what-
it's a seasonal rite of passage. to
Yeah.
hear from
Well,
us.
it is. There's been no problems,
Never
so,
had a problem.
yeah.
Never.
And then, what was, I guess, what is this, a pole barn fee
Yeah,
waiver?
5 or 6 years ago, Sean Erickson had the idea for a pole barn just to store some stuff out of the weather to some degree. And he thought, okay, the transfer station made sense for it. Chad Ujer kind of blew the dust off of those plans and wants to move forward, perhaps this fall with it. They've already purchased the poles, I think, and they've got some other materials, and they think it'd be a fun project for them to do, just beyond the salt shed and to the left along the edge of the drop-off. And the only issue, I'm sorry, it's, I think it was, I don't know the answer. I think it's 60 by 30, something like that. And the idea is that the permit is expired, because that was issued 5 years ago. Jeff Biasuzi says he'd be happy to issue a new one, but he needs to run it by ZBA first. And there's normally a $515 fee for this, unless the town select board wants to waive the fee for itself.
Yeah, no.
So Jeff just said as long
No,
as
but
that's in the
just,
minutes, we're good.
and while I agree with that, but there is, back when I was on the planning commission, there are people in town that don't like the fact that the town gets to get away with it, so I'm just mentioning that. But no, I mean,
Well,
we're
it's
just,
not the town, it's the taxpayers.
well, no, but it's, again, they don't see, I'm just telling you that that's, you may hear
I
that,
think,
Okay.
so.
didn't the planning commission have the possibility of waiving that in the zoning regs? And maybe they opted not to, even though Jeff had suggested it.
Yeah.
It's more like what you're
That's,
saying.
well, that's where it came up, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No-brainer.
Well, I know, but it's, you know,
All right, well, if anybody has anything else, otherwise we're done with the open part of our meeting.